Welcome to the Finite Math Podcast. In the next few episodes, I want to cover the decreasing annuities. A typical example of such an annuity would be the paying off of a credit card. Suppose we owe $3,000 on a credit card. The card charges 18% a year, compounded monthly, and we plan to pay $100 a month. Now, we'd like to find the balance after a year. All right, so I've set up part of a template here. First of all, we have some labels in the left-hand column in which we need to record the data and the information that we're going to use in our calculations. Well, the amount owed, $3,000. Pretty straightforward. The rate per year, 18%. And we're assuming that our compounding periods will be the same as the periods that we make our payments, namely 12 times a year. Now we have to calculate some internal numbers that we're going to use. For example, the monthly rate. Well, that's just going to be the annual rate divided by the number of compounding periods a year. That's 12. And we wanted to set up and make our payments $100 a month. All right, now let's take a look at the columns that I put some labels on over here. Our balance, of course, is just going to be the $3,000. That's the beginning balance. Now I want to keep track of the months of our calculations here. So the first month is 1, and I want to fill in a bunch of other months, as many as I want to keep track of. So I want to do the first 12 months. So how do we fill that in? Well, under Edit, there is a fill command, and we want to fill a series. And the series, we want to go down in the columns. It's going to be linear. Our step sizes will be 1, and we want to stop it, say, at the 12th month. All right, so there's our 12 months that we're interested in. Now, what about the payments? Well, the payments were going to be $100 a month, so I'll place that value in cell B12, but we don't want the payments to change when I do copying, so I want to make this an absolute reference. So I'll press the F4 function key to add dollar signs around that to make it absolute. Now, what about the interest charge? Well, we've owed this $3,000 for 1 month. So we have to multiply the amount that we owe, the balance we owe, times the rate, the interest rate for 1 month, which was calculated over here as 1.5%. Now that interest rate we want to stay the same, so I press the F4 function key again to make that an absolute reference. $45 interest. So how do we find our new balance? Well, we could take the difference between the payment and the interest and subtract it, or we could do it in the following way. We can take the balance, the previous balance, and we subtract our payments that we have made. That's the $100. But now we have to add back in the interest that is being added to the account. So that's this formula. And one of the things over here, we have one more column. I like to keep track of the cumulative interest so that I know how much interest I paid total up to date. Now, how can we do that? Well, I want to copy this entire row down, so we'll fake it a little bit. There's a blank that counts as 0 in the cell above. So I want to take that and add to that the amount of interest in the current period, which is $45. Okay, so that gives us a total of $45. Now, the advantage of doing that, you'll see in a minute. So here is this first row, which we very carefully made up. So I want to copy that down through the remaining months of the year. I can just take this and double click the little fill handle, and there we see the balance now down here at the end of the first year. We've still owe $2,282. The bank has made $482 off of us. So that's kind of the information that you can keep. Now we could, the way this is set up, we could examine what happens if our interest rate changes, if we decide to make larger payments. various things like that you can play with to see what happens. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time for another podcast.